Let's start today's video out with a quote from Todd McShay. Quote, "It won't surprise me when it's all said and done if he's somewhere in the top 15. That is referring to the subject of today's video, who has been one of the fastest rising prospects for the 2023 draft, and when you go back in time, this seemed pretty much impossible. He overcome a ton of difficult odds as a child and went to a school not known for producing talent at his position. Instead, he will arguably go down as the best wide receiver in school history and could be a top 15 pick who compares himself to an NFL great. In today's video, we're going to tell his story, talk about his career, and why he could be one of the best receivers from the 2023 class. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now, let's get started. So you're probably wondering who the subject of today's video is, and it is none other than Boston College wide receiver Zay Flowers. But in order to understand how he got to this point, we first need to go back in time. Going back in time, Zay Flowers grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and he had it tough at first. He was the 11th of 14 children, and his mother would pass away in 2005, leading his dad to drive a truck for a medical device company and provide for the family. He grew up in a 5-bedroom house with 9 brothers and 4 sisters. While it was tough, Zay took it to heart to not let it kill him. He said, quote, "I just want to make my family proud. That's one of the reasons I keep a smile on my face, and I don't want to let it bring me down. I just keep a smile on and keep going because I know that's what my mom would want me to do, and she didn't really get to experience me, but I'm pretty sure she's watching from above." Eventually, Zay became one of the better athletes in his area and ended up going to University High School. He's going to try to prove to his family why he was the best player in the house, but sadly, his brother Martin would pass away in 2017, and Zay always said he was the best athlete in the house. This would be enough to send a lot of people into darkness, but Zay knew he had to get it together and be a better example for those around him. This mindset was definitely influenced to him by his father, and let me read you a paragraph about the situation. Zay said, quote, "We didn't complain about what we had and what we didn't have. We understood our living situation. Every single day my dad worked hard to provide for us, and on the weekends, which were his days off, he was taking us to football games, getting up early to make us breakfast, washing clothes at the laundromat at 3 a.m., and grocery shopping for all 14 of us. He taught me what hard work was, and he will always keep me motivated." Going back in time a little bit, Flowers picked up the game of football at the age of 4, and it wasn't long before his brothers had him doing the agility ladder in the front yard. They often played a game called Murder Ball, which one person gets the ball and pretty much everyone else tries to tackle them. He was on the smaller side, so he relied on his athleticism to avoid getting killed. In 8th grade, he met the University High School head coach, and he called Zay the Energizer Bunny. When he arrived at high school, he was a 120-pound running back, but he did gain 20 pounds before his 10th grade season, and because of injuries and playing on a really stacked team, it was hard for him to get his name out there and to get on the field. Eventually, he would start to blow up, as during his junior season, he had 48 catches for 631 yards and 10 touchdowns, helping him to receive 21 Division I offers. He said, quote, "I always knew my time was going to come. It was a matter of when, to be honest. When it came, it wasn't a surprise to me at all, because I always worked for it." His final 5 included NC State, Boston College, Kansas State, Nebraska, and Tulane, but he decided to go to Boston College for a few reasons. He was pumped about the BC education, the city, and the chance to contribute right away. He helped lead his high school to back-to-back semifinal appearances, but he says he didn't receive a ton of offers because he was a late bloomer. Scouts were also just average on him, as according to 24/7 Sports, Flowers was a 3-star recruit, the number 139 wide receiver, and the 1,202nd best player in the class of 2019. As a lower-ranked recruit at a school not known for producing big-time receivers, how the heck would he do at Boston College? Zay actually came into Boston College as a defensive back, but the coaching staff knew he could play elsewhere. On day 1 of his freshman year, he switched to wide receiver permanently, a decision that he called the best he's ever made. In 2019, Zay would break out onto the scene very quickly as he caught 22 passes for 341 yards and 3 touchdowns. Unfortunately, there'd be a lot of changes for him between his freshman and sophomore year. Steve Adazio was fired as the head coach, and in came Jeff Hafley from Ohio State. With him came former 5-star quarterback Phil Dracovic, and now things were going to look a little bit better for Zay as the offense fit his skill set much better. In 2020, Zay would break out as he caught 56 passes for 892 yards and 9 touchdowns. He had one of the best seasons in the ACC and in all of college football, and was one of those rising names that came out of nowhere to most fans. Zay was now one of the top receivers going into the 2021 season, but unfortunately, it was a very disappointing season for Boston College. Dracovic was hurt on and off, and they ended up just being pretty boring. He still caught 44 passes for 746 yards and 5 touchdowns, though. After a great first 3 years at Boston College, he'd actually have a chance to go up a level or go to another school. Ultimately, he decided to stay back. Right before the transfer portal deadline, Flowers could have made a life-changing move. He was told by some NIL companies that they would give him $600,000 to transfer to one school, and there was another deal that would give him $300,000. Flowers had not even entered the transfer portal at the time, nor given any indication he even wanted to. At the end of the day, though, he declined. He said, quote, "For a kid like me, from a household of 14 with one parent, that's life-changing money. I talked to Coach Halfley, and we went through what was going on. I talked to my dad, and my dad would love for me to stay at BC, and I wanted to stay there. It was a decision I had to make, and the decision I made was to come back to school." He turned down a lot of money to stay at Boston College, and he even turned down going to the NFL, but with the return of Phil Dracovic, some thought that BC could have a huge 2022 season. Sadly, it was a dumpster fire. The Eagles were absolutely horrible in 2022, and they even lost a home game to UConn. It was a disastrous season for pretty much everyone in the Boston College program except for Zay. He went on to have a career year. He caught a career-high 78 passes for 1,077 yards and 12 touchdowns. Because of this, he was one of the top receivers in all of college football and put his skill set on full display. He declared for the 2023 NFL Draft after playing in 47 games, recording 200 catches, 3,056 receiving yards, and 29 touchdowns, which was a school record. When he inevitably goes to the NFL this spring, he'll be the first Boston College wide receiver drafted since 1987, and he could go as high as the top 15. He's having a similar rise to Christian Watson from North Dakota State and Tyquan Thornton from Baylor last year. Right now, Flowers is that name that is flying up draft boards at the receiver spot, and there's good reason for it. He now holds school records for receiving yards, touchdown catches, and receptions in a career, and he's going to translate this over to the NFL. One scout said, quote, "He has absurd straight line and horizontal speed and is extremely quick with a large toolbox of skill moves that make him an impossible cover." Overall, scouts are really high on him, and there's pretty much nothing to dislike about his game, but Zay himself has his own comparison. He said, quote, "In terms of style, I'm probably like a Stephon Diggs or an Antonio Brown or something. I'm a little bit faster, and probably a little bit faster than Diggs," jokingly. If Flowers is anything like Antonio Brown or Stephon Diggs, then that means he's going to have a terrific NFL career. Despite Antonio Brown being a knucklehead off the field, he was still really good when he was on the field, and I would say those two are not a horrible comparison for Zay. He overcame extremely difficult odds as a kid and went to a school that hadn't had a receiver drafted in 50 years. Zay could hear his name called in the top 15, and he is one of the best stories in the 2023 draft. But what do you guys think? If you're a Boston College fan or a fan of the NFL, what do you think of Zay Flowers' skill set, and how do you think he'll do at the next level? Also, be sure to let me know another player I can cover for this year's draft. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.